Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then, one more time. Tally, not now! I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa! No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait! Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Hey, whoa, Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost there. Okay. Oh! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. Yena haleni nafshi yeshobeh yancheni b'mgalet tzedek leman shemo.
What What you have just watched is a concept short or a musical animated feature film on the story of David, and our vision is to tell it in the same quality as movies like Tangled and Frozen. This is more than a movie. This is a movement to join people from all over the world to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. You can show your interest in investing by going to angel.com/David. Growing up in the wild of Africa was the most incredible experience, and it was there that I bumped into the most amazing character of God and fell in love with him. At the same time, I was reading David's story, and it just really struck me. On one particular canoe trip on the Zambezi River, where you could canoe for days and not see a human being, I was reading the scriptures and I read, "I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart." And I thought how amazing it would be to do a film that would give people all over the world a glimpse into God's heart. We grew up on a farm that had no electricity. I only saw my first film when I was 14 years old, and it was such an electric experience. I was blown away by the power of film and the power of story to connect with people and move people. And from that day, I became passionate to tell a story on the life of David. The question is, can a group of farmers from Africa make a global hit that's going to reach the world? This is in and of itself an incredible David versus Goliath story.
There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And in order to tell a story as big as David, we need people from all around the world to come together.
Over the last 20 years, Jackie and I have just been blown away by how God has miraculously drawn talent to us. Now we have the most awesome, high-quality team.
Like Nathan Stanton, who spent 22 years at Pixar, Jonas Myron, a Grammy Award-winning musician, Borja Mentora, a Disney animation alumni, other talent from massive films like Big Hero 6, Tangled, Finding Nemo, Zootopia, Moana, Prince of Egypt, and many more.
Our first breakout hit is Jungle Beat, an incredible and beautiful show. On our YouTube channel, we get over 2 billion views a year. We've got 7 million subscribers. We also recently released our first animated feature film called Jungle Beat the Movie. And incredibly, it was on Netflix's top 10 for over 2 weeks, both live action and animated feature films in the US. We are also doing a theatrical release of Jungle Beat the Movie in China later this year, and are in production of Jungle Beat the Movie 2. What really excites me is if you take Jungle Beat the Movie, we produced that for $5 million. And I'd really encourage you to go and watch it on Netflix to see the quality of movie we produced for that price. And just imagine the quality of movie we could produce on David with the proper budget. With David, we considered the route of engaging with Hollywood, and there is significant interest down that route. But we really felt that from a creative point of view, we need to stay the head and not the tail of this project. And it's a slingshot, like David went with a slingshot to fight Goliath. We really believe that the strategy needs to be outside the Hollywood system for it to work. In this vein, we are thrilled to be working with Angel Studios for distribution. Angel Studios did the TV series The Chosen, which has become the world's biggest TV series on the life of Jesus Christ. The Chosen has generated hundreds of millions of views and tens of millions of dollars. We've already got $19 million of investments and need another $35 million to complete this project. We need your help to bring God's heart to the world through the story of David. Go to angel.com/David to show your support for this project now. And let's join together to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. Welcome to this live stream on David, the animated feature film. My name is Phil Cunningham, and I'm one of the directors on the movie. And I'm so excited about tonight, or today, your time if you're in the US. We're going to be talking about why David and why the scale of this movie. And then also I just really want to unpack the scale, the vision, the budget, and the investments, and how we're going about that, and how our whole philosophy is on that. And timelines, because animated feature films are massive projects, and they take a huge amount of time and a huge amount of commitment, passion. So I'm going to be unpacking all of this for you guys tonight, and I just wanted to share that with you tonight. And during these live streams at this point, we very much, we've got a pledge there already of $5,000. So thank you for that. That's amazing. We're going to be talking about that. In fact, I'll jump into that. These live streams in these next few months are all about gauging interest. We've done one crowdfunding round at the end of last year. We had some private investment, and now we're looking to crowdfund the rest of the movie. But at this point, we are gauging interest, and so I'll talk a little bit more about what that means and how you can, pledge your support if you'd like to. But we'll unpack that. But I really want to also get to the heart of David. Why David? Why the scale of David? Just very quickly talking about some of the mechanics though before we get onto the fun stuff. So gauging interest. If you want to find out more about the project, you can go to angel.com/David, and that's where you can find out a lot more information on the movie. And this is not an investment phase at the moment. It's a testing the waters phase. It's gauging interest. So you can go there and you can show us your interest and put your details there, and we can get hold of you later if we go there. So far on David round 2, we're calling it round 2 because we've done round 1. We've raised, there's pledged $11.1 million, as you can see on the screen there. And what excites me most, though, is not so much the money that's pledged, but the crowd, over 10,000 people. And we know from the Chosen, as one example, the power of community and the power of community getting behind a project. So what excites me is the army that we're getting behind David as we pledge and go down this road. I would really want to say, if you've got any questions, we're definitely going to have time for questions at the end, and particularly this live stream. Please post your questions, and I'll gladly unpack what I can. If I can't, we'll answer later and post it on live streams. But please feel free to fire questions at us. And one thing I wanted to set a goal is to see if we could get a pledging of about $20,000 tonight. We've already had 5,000 and 1,000, so a big thank you to those of you who pledged that. That's so encouraging, and a big thank you. But I want to go to the main reason, and that is why are we making this movie, and why the scale, and why this expanse, and just the vision of this movie is huge, and I'd like to share with you why. And I'd like to start answering that. Actually, we recently went to the Annecy Film Festival in France, the animation festival in France, and subsequently after went to Israel. But rewinding back to France, we landed in Paris, and we spent 2 nights and 1 day in Paris. And we spent a day walking around Paris, and my wife and I walked 21 kilometers, and we walked from the Eiffel Tower to Arc de Triomphe to the Louvre. And I'm going to just have a few pictures up from the trip, just so you can get a sense of Paris while I'm talking. But what struck my wife and I, that there is a picture of the Louvre, by the way, for those of you who don't know. We were outside the Louvre. And the Louvre, for those of you who have been, it's massive. And what I want to talk about tonight is looking at the artists and the architects of those centuries, just how passionate they were, the scale at which they dreamed, and then the attention they paid to detail. And my wife and I were just chatting and saying, we can make movies and we can make money. You can make square blocks of flats and square offices that are dull and drab, and you can churn them out and you can make money. But that's not what we're about. What we're about, and what the David movie about, is building something. There in front of us is the Arc de Triomphe. And if you've been there in person, the photo does not do it justice, because the scale of that piece of architecture is amazing. And if you look up there, look at the characters that are carved into the building. And what we came away from Paris so inspired, because we were saying, wow, in making the David project, we really are trying to make a movie that stands the test of time. And I'm not just talking human time. I'm talking, in my opinion, eternity. And so we want to dream big. We want to make a movie that is incredible. And we don't want to be just the goal of this movie is not to make money. I'm not saying it won't make money, but what I'm trying to say, the heart behind it is to create something like the Eiffel Tower, like the Arc de Triomphe, like the Louvre. And so, as we went around Paris, we were just really inspired, and like, this movie that we're making with the crowd and with the private investors to date, that is what we're trying to make. I really wanted to try and paint a vision, and that's my wife and I there on the River Seine. And we just came away inspired, guys. If you're tracking this movie, that's what we're trying to do, is a word picture I can give to you. We're trying to make something that'll stand the test of time. It's not a block of offices. It's not a block of flats. It's something beautiful. While we were there, I just took a quick shot of the Mona Lisa for interest. We also went to Annecy, which these pictures are not covering Annecy, but the Annecy Animation Film Festival was really interesting. And tonight, I don't want to talk too much about that, except to say we went to see a lot of the content that's coming out over the next few years. And what really struck me is that there's a real need for wholesome, inspiring content. When I look at what's happening around the world and the kind of content that's being produced, especially what we can see is going to be coming out over the next 2 to 3 years, I'm really excited about David, because here is a project that I think is not only going to stand the test of time, but is going to fulfill a need in society when it's released. The other thing I want to talk about, why David, just for me, I grew up in Zimbabwe, and I grew up on a farm which had no electricity, no water, and there's a place where you could canoe, and you could canoe for 5 days and 4 nights. You'd not see a human being. But in that great expanse and in that beauty, for me personally, I connected with God. And I was like, wow, his character is so kind, so expansive, so adventurous, so wow. And I just fell in love with who God was. And I was reading in the Bible at the time about, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. And so what struck me, and this was 20 years ago, if we could tell a story on David, it'll give people a glimpse into God's own heart. And of course, it is going to be hugely entertaining, hugely inspiring, and it'll be all those things. But in it, it's also got this beautiful heart, because David, in my points towards the heart of God and his adventure, his character. And so that this dream to make David actually started 20 years ago, just so you know on that. The other thing, just to give you a sense of the kind of movie we're trying to make, maybe we'll use two movies that many of you might have seen. And what we see David being is like a hybrid between these two. So I'll take The Prince of Egypt and Tangled. So the beauty and authenticity of The Prince of Egypt, but the energy, passion, and humor and fun of Tangled. So what the goal of David is to be a hybrid of those two, but of course its own, not derivative. But I'm just trying to use those two movies to best give you a picture of what we're trying to create. And I'm going to tonight unpack where we're at on the journey, how far to go, what's been achieved. But I was just trying to get to the why of David and the scale of David. And yeah, hope that helps you just get a bit of a picture of where we're going and our vision for the project. I will just say one more thing on the vision of the project before we unpack it. I want to talk about the music of it, because in human history, David is one of the most well-known and prolific songwriters to have ever lived. For those of you who know the Bible, he actually wrote half of the Psalms. There are 150 Psalms, and David wrote half of them. So at the heart of this movie is a musical and is music. And I think it's so exciting. I've said this before. Jeffrey, thank you. I see a pledge from Jeffrey S. from Alabama for $1,000. And there's been a few others I didn't mention because I was just talking too much. But for those of you who pledged and I didn't thank you as you pledged, thank you. I was seeing it on the bottom of the screen there, so thank you. I just want to say on the music side, The Greatest Showman was an amazing musical, and it was on the life of P.T. Barnum. And respect to them, because if they can make a musical on the life of someone who started the circus, surely we have got such more amazing raw material to work with in the character of David, because he, at his heart, was a songwriter, was a singer. And he even describes himself near the end of his life as Israel's singer of songs. So, yeah, we're just so excited. And why animation? Just very quickly to answer that. Animation has this power to cross race, cultural, age, and gender barriers better than any other medium. Every year, you'll probably get 2,000 live-action feature films made and maybe 15 animated feature films made. But if you look at the stats at the end of each year, in your top 10, there's always 3 to 4 animated feature films. And that just shows you the incredible success rate of animation, its ability just to cross and get around the globe. And I love kids as well, and I love family. And so to make David as an animated feature film just felt like the right thing. I love the format of animation and would love to bring the story of David to the world in the form of animation. We're just showing you a little clip again from the demo when he's hanging on the cliff there. And whether you're 94 years old or whether you're 4 years old, when you look at that image, you can relate. So that's why. And I just want to say, our passion for quality, I kind of refer to it in walking around Paris, in that example of walking around Paris. But we are so passionate about quality and making a project that will really stand up against the best of the best. We are also super passionate about authenticity. And that's not the point of tonight's live stream, but I'll quickly touch on it because it's important. We've done 4 research trials, and we are really passionate about building this movie off a foundation of deep research, deep respect, and of course it must be entertaining, fun, energetic, and really the music must be catchy, but not at the expense of authenticity and building it off truth and what really happened in David's life. So I just want to share that with you. We are continuing to do so much research and field trips. We've been to the Valley of Eli, to Engedi. And just for those of you who'd like to, if you just joined the live stream and you want to find out how to express interest, you can go to angel.com/David. And there's a site there which gives you a lot more detail on the project. So, yeah, we're passionate about quality, scale, music, authenticity, and we've been building the most incredible team, which I'll unpack for you a little bit now. So I just want to talk about the project, because tonight's call is for those of you wondering how it all works. How does animation industry work? What does it cost? How long does it take? Just to unpack the business for you. And sometimes the best way to unpack something is to give a word picture. So I'm just going to start with a word picture of an apple orchard. So animation projects, and particularly animated feature films, is like an apple orchard. You've got to water and fertilize an apple orchard for 5 years before you see a single apple. And then when you do get apples, though, you get apples for 20 years. That's how long it continues to bear fruit for. But if you stop watering or fertilizing an apple orchard before 5 years, you don't get any apples. So the challenge with animation is the long life cycle. Typically, an animated feature film takes 4 to 7 years from inception to release. So it's a long time. It's a big process, and it takes time. The other thing about animated feature films, the budgets are really big. So if you look at the big Disney and Pixar films that we're trying to compete with, they typically are $150 million and more. Some of them are north of $200 million. And so that's the scale. So it takes a long time. It takes a big budget. The upside of animation, though, it's less risky. I wouldn't say it's not risky. All film businesses carries its risk. But oh wow, we've just had a massive pledge there from Nevada, from Sarah, $5,000. So thank you guys for that. We really appreciate that. What I was saying there, though, is it takes a long time and a big budget, but it's less risky than live action. Coming from a farming background, I would liken live action to wheat farming or corn farming, where it's a quick turnover, but it doesn't have the same long tail as animation. I mean, many of you who are maybe in your 50s or older will remember projects like The Lion King, even Prince of Egypt. So these projects live on in different forms. And talking about The Lion King, that even turned into a Broadway musical, which runs to this very day. So my point about animated feature films is just to give you, for those of you who don't know it, because people don't often understand, it takes a long time and a big budget to get there. Our budget, I just want to share with you, getting specifically into David and where we're at. Our total budget is $55 million. And thank you, Tom C. We just had another pledge there from Tom from Pennsylvania for $1,000. And thank you, Tom. Really appreciate your support there. I'm going to pull up a little pie chart for a moment, just to give you an idea of what's been raised so far and where we've got to go. So if you're looking at this pie chart, we kicked off with some private funding for $19.6 million. And this goes back as far as 2017, just so you're aware. And I'm going to talk to what we achieved with that private funding. Again, I love word pictures, so I'm going to give you a building site word picture. With that $19.6 million, we laid a foundation. So when you go to a building site, it looks a mess. You see dirt, rubble, bricks piled up, sand piles. But if you don't build that foundation deep, you cannot build a high-rise building or a massive Arc de Triomphe or something big if you don't build a deep foundation. So the work that was done with that $19.6 million, and this should really encourage you, by the way, that there's already this much belief in the project and this much spent in the project. To give you a headline on the work that was done for the 19.6, we did character development, we did environment development, we did music development, we did story development, we did 3 drafts of the script, 3 animatics, which is basically a storyboard with voiceover and music put over it as well. We also developed a lot of the pipeline. So you can't just go from we've made an animated feature film called Jungle Beat, the movie, which if you're interested, by the way, you can go look at it on Netflix. And that's an amazing little animated feature film. But when you're going up to the level of David, you've really got to build your foundation deeper, technically, to prep for that build up. So on that $19.6 million, we laid an incredible foundation. And by the way, there were people from all over the world building that foundation. We had people who had been 20 years at Pixar, people from DreamWorks, people from Disney, and of course people from other studios, more independent studios around the world. But this most incredible team came together. We actually, behind me you can see a little bit of artwork. In this room I'm sitting, there's a massive wall, and there we created probably 800 to 1,000 pieces of environment art, and that also was birthed out of those trips to Israel. Some incredible world-renowned artists, published authors, some of them actually were working on the artwork. And so we're sitting on this incredible body of artwork, which is a foundation for the visual look of the film. And I really want to share that with you so you understand that we're building this movie off a foundation that is really amazing. Then we bumped into the amazing Angel Studios. And I just want to give them a massive shout out because they are such a dynamic, innovative group. And by the way, there's someone called Angel from Kansas who pledged $5,000, so thank you. But Angel Studios, I just really love them and their approach. They're thinking out the box, going against the tide, and really helping creators think through crowdfunding and how to go about it. And I'll just say, obviously, many of you will know The Chosen, and they were the distributors and partners with The Chosen. And that project has been an amazing success and really, if I can say, a blessing to the world. It's an amazing project. So what we decided then at that stage is, I love community. And my wife's got the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It's actually an African proverb. And when I saw the power of community and of crowd, what struck me more about than raising the money is actually getting a group of people behind you who care so much about the product and the movie. And John, thank you for that pledge of $500. And you go on a journey as a community, not as a solo person. And the beauty of this route as well, which I'm so passionate about, is you keep creative control of the project, because you're not dealing with a few executives who can override the creative and take it down a certain road, no matter what the original creator thought. When you're working with a community, you've got the creative integrity to maintain that control. And thank you for that comment. This project is amazing. I love the history of David. Oh my goodness, it's a whole live stream on the history of David and the research, but I won't go down that rabbit hole for now. So with Angel's help and with them directing us, just working with us, I should say, we went from a pledging phase last year into a real crowdfunding raise. And because it was a CF round, we hadn't yet got approval from the SEC to do a bigger round. The cap was $5 million. And in less than 30 days, we raised close on $5 million. And then we closed the round. It was amazing, just the response. And it was so electric just to see the support for this movie and the hunger for this kind of content. And so that was super encouraging. And based on that, as we came into this year, we were really encouraged. So there's still $30 million to raise for the production of this movie. And what we're in right now, just to clarify and be super clear on, we're not yet soliciting investments or pitching for investment, but what we are doing is gauging interest. So this is a testing the waters phase. It's a gauging interest phase. And again, if you want to find out more, you can go to angel.com/David, and all the information's up there. And that's where we're at right now. And it's going so well. As you saw, if you were on the live stream earlier, there's already been 10,000 people who've pledged to this round, heading us towards like just gauging interest for what is the interest in that 30. And there it is at the moment, this round 2. There's 10,177 people and $11.1 million. And I think that's been boosted by some of you tonight. So thank you for your support. It's so awesome to feel people getting behind you, getting behind the project. That's where the magic's going to happen. So that's what we're on in the journey now. Quickly to say, and we're feeling confident. And if our finance plays go well, we've already gone a long way down the line on this movie. We should finish. We're aiming to finish. If we don't have a break in our finance raise, we'll be aiming to finish at the end of 2024. And then the goal would be to release the movie in 2025. And that's just to give you a sense of time. Just to rewind back to the beginning, typically 4 to 7 years to make an animated feature film from inception to completion. And the budgets are typically $150 million. And thank you, Ben, for your pledge as well. Really appreciate it. And every pledge counts. Every dollar, like whether it's a big pledge or a smaller pledge, thank you. Thanks for the guys who are putting in a lot and for the guys who are putting in less. They all count. Everything stacks up and it builds that community. And we need everyone in the community. So just to say that's where we're at. If we continue to fund this well and keep moving forward, then our goal would be to finish end of 2024, release the movie 2025. And there's a whole nother live stream we'll need to do because we have got such exciting plans on the distribution. Because the one big challenge, if we get time and there's a few questions, I can try and unpack it for you a little bit tonight. But one of the big challenges in movie making is, well, firstly, can you make a genuinely brilliant movie that's going to compete? And secondly, what is your distribution plan and can you distribute it? Because that's a big part of the equation. And I want to say, yes, we have got a very exciting, very dynamic, very out-of-the-box plan and strategy for distribution, which is not the point of tonight's live stream. But if someone wants to ask questions, I don't mind unpacking it a little bit. I'm just going to check my notes here to see if there's anything else. And I think we should start taking questions. I'm just checking my notes to see if I've missed anything out. Yeah, so I think, Janine, while I just looked up there, Janine D, thank you for pledging $1,000. Wow, tonight's been amazing. I really appreciate the pledging that's going on. So here's a question. Will you do more Bible stories like the story of Esther, Oh my goodness, I've got something to say on that. Or the story of Daniel and the lion's den. What about the story of Gideon? So very quickly, the answer is yes, 100%. So the way this investment is set up, the company is set up, it's there's a property, the IP of David sits in a company called Slingshot USA, and in the memorandum of that company, 9% of money that comes in goes into developing new content. And just so you know, one of the projects we're already working on developing is Esther, because what an incredible, amazing, beautiful story. And it'd be so great to go from a story like David to one which has got a female lead and hero. And so, yes, Esther's definitely one of the ones we're looking at. So the whole goal of Slingshot USA, I just want to actually talk about, this is such a great question, because it's not just a movie. If we get to what you're pledging into at the moment, is actually more than just a movie. It's pledging into an IP company, an intellectual property company. It's going to own the IP of David. And if David is successful, it is important that obviously David's successful, then funds from that company can roll on into other projects. So what I see, we're sowing a seed today that's not just one movie, it's hopefully going to get rise to more movies. And Esther's already on our radar. The other thing, which I really want to say, is we are very passionate, and it'll be linked, is about doing a Broadway musical on David. So first you've got to make a great movie, and the music's got to be awesome. But that's what we're working on. But then my goal would be to take this project and take it towards a Broadway musical. And I just want to say, The Lion King, and it's not, I'm not trying to focus on the money, but it'll give you an idea of how big a Broadway musical can be in terms of reach. I think it's Disney's single biggest earner in its ecosystem. And it's something like $8 billion that it's made over the years as a Broadway musical. So there's plans beyond the David animated feature film to give birth to things like a Broadway musical and other animated feature films, and then perhaps some series as well. And already around this ecosystem, we're talking to partner about books, and there's a whole lot of ancillary products that can go and support that whole ecosystem, just so you know. So that's a great question, and I hope I didn't go too wide on the answer, but I really love that question. Thank you. That's a good question. Oh, this is also a great question. I'm just going to read it out. What time span will the movie cover? David's time as shepherd and all the way to him becoming king. So where we're going from is from David as a shepherd boy to David when he becomes king of Judah. So it's that span of his life. So shepherd boy, there's a whole part where, those of you know the story, there'll be the battle with Goliath, which is about a third of the way through the movie, and then it goes on. And it goes right up to when he's king of Judah. We stop when he becomes king of Judah because it felt like for a kid's movie, that's a good time that's a really beautiful part of the story to tell. And there's so much richness in it already. We don't go on to where he becomes king of Israel and the whole civil war that followed where he became king of Judah. Although there's amazing content there, for a kid's animated feature film, we felt young David, shepherd boy, to king of Judah. And so that's exactly the space we're aiming at. And on that note, and going back to the original question and connected to your question, Natalia, is we've got this beautiful relationship going with GoMinnow, which is a company in the USA. And through their funding, so not through the crowdfunding and not through the private funding, but they've brought funding to the table. We are doing 5 David shorts of when he's young David. So they're like prequels to the movie. And we've given each one a theme. So it's warrior, shepherd, poet, king, worshipper. And they're 5 minutes long each. And what's cool about these are in production and they're financed, and they'll be released as prequels and before the movie, which I think is so exciting. And it goes back to the original question. What the David movie is already giving birth to is more than just itself and more than just the David movie. Already, when Minnow saw we were making the movie, they came in and created this partnership to do these 5 David shorts, which, by the way, those 5 David shorts sit inside the Slingshot USA company, which owns the David movie. And so those 5 shorts are also, the intellectual property is also owned by that. So just to say again, for those of you who are pledging, and for those of you who may eventually, if we get our SEC approval and we go live on our funding, you'd actually end up owning shares in the Slingshot USA company, which will hopefully expand into many more things. We'll see if there's another question on the social media side. How can we donate? So that's a great question. We are actually working on that because for those of you who would rather donate at the moment, all we can do is gauge interest, and then we can open up investment. But we are looking at a pay it forward button. So for those people who would just like to donate, coming down the line, and if you watch the live streams on social media, we'll make sure people are aware of that. But it's a similar model to The Chosen, where they have a pay it forward button, and people can pay it forward and donate money through that button. So we want to bring that element in as well. And it'll, if you watch the space, we don't yet have that button live, because at the moment we can only gauge interest. But down the line, we'll bring in that pay it forward option for people who would just like to donate. And Vanessa, yeah, thanks for that question. From Lady Gardner, how long did it take to research the story of David? What depths did you go? And what new information of the story did you learn? Oh, wow. I could talk about this for 2 hours, but let me try to keep it short. So the research, just so you know, for me personally, started 20 years ago. When I was canoeing down the Zambezi River, and I just really fell in love with God and the story of David, and I realized how much David's heart was a window to God's heart. I started studying David's life right back then, and I became an avid student of his life and went to do all sorts of research reading. So that was my personal journey. And then as we built our animation company, by the way, our animation company has been building for 20 years. So it's not just out of the blue, we decided to make an animated feature film on David. Just so you know, Lady Gardner, so for me, and I'll get to your research question, the journey started 20 years ago. And in my mind, I was like, I've got to make with my wife's encouragement, I'm not taking credit, we've got to make a feature film on David. So everything we've been doing till now has been building technical skill, team. And like David killed the lion and the bear before he fought Goliath, we've been building battles and building strength and craft so we can get to the David film. But linked to that, over the last 20 years, has been research. And on the research, I just want to say, so we've been as a team, actually it's 5 now because I've just come back from the 5th trip. But I'll talk as a team. We've been on 4 trips to Israel. And on that trip, we've surrounded ourselves with some of the world leading archaeological experts. We've surrounded ourselves with leading theologians as well, getting their opinion. We've also connected with the Jewish community. And we're working actually currently very closely with a guy called Rabbi Tuli Wise, who's a very well respected rabbi within the Jewish community. And just getting, because he's got obviously a deep knowledge of the Hebrew language and the history and some of the writings from outside the biblical text. And so besides research trips and physically going to Valley of Eli, En-Gedi, Bethlehem, and and going into the city of David and Jerusalem, and taking a lot of, and going there with experts, by the way. So we've really taken our time. And this has been going on since 2016, to give you an idea, the deep research. So 2017, 2018, 2019, halted a little bit when COVID came, but continued researching just what we could through the internet and conversation, and then back again this year to carry on our research. What new information of the story did you learn? Wow, there's a lot to say on that. And I think maybe I won't try and answer all of that now, because that's what we started to learn was incredible. What I'll maybe share is, for those of you who don't know, it's on social media, but I'll give you one example of what we learned. If you look at our David logo, it actually comes from an archaeological find. And unfortunately, I wasn't expecting to speak on this. I don't know if Angel guys can pull it up on this live stream. But if you take our David logo, the second letter actually comes, it means, so this letter in the middle, the A, actually means the house of David. It actually comes from an archaeological find. So we took that and we actually made that into our A. And then from that, we created a font for the D, the V, the I, and the other D. And so that was, and actually if you go and research it, you'll find the house of David is exactly that symbol that is in our A. And for those of you interested, the V, by the way, with the cross, has got two things in it. It's the 8th son, so David is the 8th son, and that's the Roman numeral 8 and the V there. And obviously also it can kind of symbolize a harp, so it symbolizes David's musical side. But I just love the fact that A that you're looking at there actually means the house of David, and it's an actual piece of archaeological rock that was dug up and found. So we can go back to the screen, but that's just one small example of what research has brought to the surface, and it's even gone into so much as our logo for the movie, if that makes sense. But I love that question, and sure, we could actually talk for hours and do a whole live stream on that. It's such an exciting part of what we're doing. What is your favorite thing about working on this film? Wow, so for me personally, it's hard to say what is the most favorite thing, because obviously David is one of human history's most incredible characters. And as I was saying earlier, he's got a heart. So he said, I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. So to be working on the story of a character of whom that has been said, I think is just incredibly exciting. For me personally, Emily, I grew up and I loved story. Even though I grew up in a farming family, I only watched my first movie when I was maybe 15, but every weekend I'm going to grab this notebook. I would literally fill up, and I'm answering your question in a second now, I'd literally tell stories through graphic novel style. I'd fill up book after book of story. So my personal passion is storytelling. So I love storytelling. And so I guess my favorite thing about working on this project is the story, engineering the story, bringing out the characters and the flavor. And of course, connected into storytelling is music and lighting and camera work. But for me, at the heart of it, it's all about story. Of course, you want the graphics to be beautiful and amazing, and they must stand up to the quality. But good graphics are not an excuse for bad story. And I think, many of us have gone to movies where the graphics are amazing and the visual is amazing, but you just walk away not engaged with the characters and not really moved. And our animation studio's byline is inspire through story. So my biggest passion and my favorite thing about working on this project is the story part of it and telling. Yeah, that's a lovely question. Thank you. We can see if there's more questions. There's one other thing I'd say. So will you be hiring artists worldwide to work on David any future bio projects? Absolutely. So just to say, we're already working, and even in that $19.6 million phase, we worked with a lot of international artists. Like just to reiterate, we worked with guys who've been at Pixar for 20 years. We worked on Finding Nemo, WALL-E. So we worked with some incredible artists who had worked on, going back to projects like Tarzan even. So we have an amazing group of animators in South Africa. But with one of the, COVID is an interesting thing, but the one thing it did do is really help animation studios, not just us worldwide, realize how easy it is to actually work with artists globally. So for example, right now, I'll just give you one example I know in my mind. We've got 7 artists who are working for us from Spain. So to answer your question, and that's one of the things I'm loving about this project, is not only the crowd that's getting behind the financing and the journey of the project, but the beautiful cross-section of artists we're getting, because I think you get this beautiful color if you're getting artists from all over the globe involved in the project. So to answer your question, yes, we are definitely hiring artists from around the world. And if you go to our social media and you can inquire there, if that's what you're interested in, you can go there to find out more. And we have got a form where people can submit their portfolio and stuff to see what positions are available on the project at the moment. And of course, the positions move along as the project develops. Yeah. So we're going to take this as the last question, and then I'll have one more thing to say on the investment side. But when can we expect to see the film in theaters? So just to say, if we manage to keep our finance on track and we keep our production on track, then we should finish the film at the end of 2024, and then our goal is to release it into theaters in 2025. My hope is that it's as early as Easter 2025, but definitely the goal is 2025, either Easter or summer 2025, to answer that question. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for your questions. The one thing I wanted to say is if we get our approval and we go into funding, I just wanted to unpack for you. So just to reiterate though, I've got to be very careful to reiterate that this is not a stage, we're just gauging interest. So we're not taking investment right now. But when we do go, and if we get to the point, and looking at the gauging interest, it's going really well. So that's exciting. And we're confident that we will go towards our next round. When we get there, I just wanted to share one thing so that you guys understand. So if somebody does invest, they end up getting preference shares. So they actually have got shares in the Slingshot USA company. And linked to that share is a 20% return. So investors, before us as creators see a cent, all investors get back their original investments plus 20%. And then we share revenue with the ordinary shareholders and the creators. And at that point, you stay on as a shareholder. You're forever a shareholder, actually, and you participate in future projects and in revenue. But what I really want to say is, because I'm very passionate about, and you can go to angel.com/David to find out more about what I'm saying, but I'm very passionate about people who invest that they get looked after first. And that's in my heart, because my passion is story and my passion is relationship. And one of our goals is to look after the crowd and investors and make sure that, when the project starts selling, that people get back their money first, plus 20%. Then you continue to participate. So it's not just that plus 20%. Obviously, if the movie is successful, we all continue to participate. But I just wanted to clarify that, and you can find out more about that on angel.com/David. Yeah. But I just wanted to end, and there's angel.com/David. Yeah, I think time is, we've done well with our time. And thank you for the questions. Please also know we've got a Facebook page, we've got an Instagram page, and if you've got questions, you're welcome to go there. We've got somebody who is on there and will answer questions. So if you've got questions, please feel free to reach out on our social media platforms. We'd love to hear from you. And if you've got thoughts, please, you're welcome to connect with us on social media. And for those of you who do go on the journey with us, one of my passions, again, is relationship, and key to that is communicating. So we'll keep communicating. And you know how life goes, smoothly. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you're always going to have some challenges, and you're always going to have some good things happening. So this project already has had its good things and it's had its challenges. And as we go towards finishing it, it'll no doubt have its good things and its challenges. But I remember a scene from Gladiator where he's in this arena, and he's with the other gladiators, and they've got this massive Roman contingent that's going to come into the arena. And he says, I don't know what's going to come through those gates, but whatever it is, we can manage it if we stay together, if we stay unified. And so I just want to say that our passion is staying unified with our crowd and with our community, and really working with you guys on the journey. And your support, your guys' pledges tonight really means so much. And thank you for that. I really want to say a big thank you in capital letters. And I'm sure some of you on this live stream did already invest in the previous round. And a big thank you to you guys as well. And I'm just inspired. I want to end off with Paris. As you leave this live stream, please think about Paris, the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Louvre. And David, as a project, as a filmmaker and as a creator, we're trying to make a project that stands the test of time and doesn't just get forgotten. It's not just a block of flats. It's not just a block of offices. It's something of beauty that'll stand the test of time and inspire people and hopefully change their lives and help them to take on their giants. So thank you so much. I know time is precious in our modern world, and I really appreciate all of you on this live stream taking time to listen, to ask questions. Massive thank you. This is an exciting adventure, and we look forward to going on it with you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day, and look forward to connecting with you on the next live stream.
Look into my eyes. Do you see fear? You come at me with sword and spear, but I come in the name of the God of Israel. Yes! Right between the eyes! Did you see that? Anyone? Of course not. Okay then. One more time. Tally, not now. I'm trying to protect us from this Philistine. Whoa. No, not that way. Come on. Back to your mom. Right, Philistine. Oh, wait. Right between the eyes. Oh, of course. That one you saw. Tally! Tally, no! I'm coming, girl! Whoa, easy! Shira! I will bring her home safely. Whoa! Hey, Tally, wait, no! There you go. I'm almost through. Whoa! Okay. Oh! Whew! Tally, stop! No! Oh, that doesn't help. That does. Stop. Thank you. Yena haleni nafshi yeshobe yancheni bem galet zedek leman shemo.
What you have just watched is a concept short or a musical animated feature film on the story of David, and our vision is to tell it in the same quality as movies like Tangled and Frozen. This is more than a movie. This is a movement to join people from all over the world to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release. You can show your interest in investing by going to angel.com/David. Growing up in the wild of Africa was the most incredible experience, and it was there that I bumped into the most amazing character of God and fell in love with him. At the same time, I was reading David's story, and it just really struck me. On one particular canoe trip on the Zambezi River, where you could canoe for days and not see a human being, I was reading the scriptures and I read, "I found in David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart." And I thought how amazing it would be to do a film that could give people all over the world a glimpse into God's heart. We grew up on a farm that had no electricity. I only saw my first film when I was 14 years old, and it was such an electric experience. I was blown away by the power of film and the power of story to connect with people and move people. And from that day, I became passionate to tell a story on the life of David. The question is, can a group of farmers from Africa make a global hit that's going to reach the world? This is in and of itself an incredible David versus Goliath story.
There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And in order to tell a story as big as David, we need people from all around the world to come together.
Over the last 20 years, Jackie and I have just been blown away by how God has miraculously drawn talent to us. Now we have the most awesome, high-quality team.
Like Nathan Stanton, who spent 22 years at Pixar, Jonas Myron, a Grammy Award-winning musician, Borja Mentora, a Disney animation alumni, other talent from massive films like Big Hero 6, Tangled, Finding Nemo, Zootopia, Moana, Prince of Egypt, and many more.
Our first breakout hit is Jungle Beat, an incredible and beautiful show. On our YouTube channel, we get over 2 billion views a year. We've got 7 million subscribers. We also recently released our first animated feature film called Jungle Beat the Movie. And incredibly, it was on Netflix's top 10 for over 2 weeks, both live action and animated feature films in the US. We are also doing a theatrical release of Jungle Beat the Movie in China later this year, and are in production of Jungle Beat the Movie 2. What really excites me is if you take Jungle Beat the Movie, we produced that for $5 million. And I'd really encourage you to go and watch it on Netflix to see the quality of movie we produce for that price. And just imagine the quality of movie we could produce on David with the proper budget. With David, we considered the route of engaging with Hollywood, and there is significant interest down that route. But we really felt that from a creative point of view, we need to stay the head and not the tail of this project. And it's a slingshot, like David went with a slingshot to fight Goliath. We really believe that the strategy needs to be outside the Hollywood system for it to work. In this vein, we are thrilled to be working with Angel Studios for distribution. Angel Studios did the TV series The Chosen, which has become the world's biggest TV series on the life of Jesus Christ. The Chosen has generated hundreds of millions of views and tens of millions of dollars. We've already got $19 million of investments and need another $35 million to complete this project. We need your help to bring God's heart to the world through the story of David. Go to angel.com/David to show your support for this project now. And let's join together to try and make the world's most watched animated theatrical release.
Look into my eyes.